Move your car, boy. Real executives need this spot. The security guard's hand slammed Marcus Williams's shoulder, sending coffee splashing across his black suit. Marcus stood beside his Honda Civic, watching liquid drip from his sleeve. At 45, he wore understated but perfectly tailored clothing. This ain't Uber pickup zone. The guard's boot kicked Marcus's briefcase. Papers scattered financial documents, meeting agendas, a first-class boarding pass. 3 employees filmed on phones. Someone laughed. Marcus knelt, gathering papers with steady hands. His expensive watch caught fluorescent light as he reached for documents marked Confidential, Board Meeting. His phone buzzed. Meeting starts in 8 minutes. The guard smirked at the growing crowd. You people always think rules don't apply. Have you ever been judged so harshly that people celebrated your humiliation only to discover they'd made a catastrophic mistake? You people always think rules don't apply. The security guard's words hung in the morning air like smoke. Badge gleaming, he planted himself between Marcus and the building entrance 200 yards away. Marcus straightened, brushing dust from his documents. I believe there's been a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? The guard's laugh was sharp. Nah, I understand perfectly. You think talking fancy makes you special? This is executive parking, reserved for people who actually work here. A young intern nearby had already started live streaming on Instagram. Her phone screen showed the view count climbing. 47 viewers, 128, 203. Comments flooded in real time. Finally, someone putting these entitled drivers in their place. Security doing their job. This guy thinks he owns the building, LOL. Marcus checked his phone discreetly. 9:52 a.m. The board meeting started at 10 o'clock a.m. sharp. 8 minutes to cross the garage, take the elevator to the 42nd floor, and explain why quarterly projections needed immediate revision. Sir, I need to get to... You need to move this rust bucket before I have it towed. The guard's finger jabbed toward the Honda. Rich folks are coming to work. They don't need to see this eyesore taking up their space. More phones appeared. The intern's viewer count hit 847. She whispered to her audience, This is getting good. Security's not backing down. Marcus noticed the parking permit clearly displayed on his dashboard. Monthly rate, $500. Executive-level authorization, valid through December 2024. The guard hadn't looked at it once. From his scattered papers, Marcus retrieved his building access card. The magnetic stripe was gold executive clearance. The photo showed his face beside the name M. Williams, Strategic Operations. I have proper authorization, Marcus said calmly, holding up the card. The guard barely glanced at it. Yeah, right. Probably found that in the parking lot, or printed it at FedEx. He keyed his radio. This is Johnson in executive parking. Need backup for a trespasser situation. The radio crackled back. Copy that. Units en route. Marcus felt his phone vibrate. Text from Elena Vasquez, CFO. Where are you? Shareholders are asking questions. Another text from legal. Board wants your analysis on the Patterson merger. You have the numbers? The intern's stream had grown to over 1,500 viewers. She'd positioned herself for the perfect angle, catching Marcus's calm demeanor against the guard's aggressive stance. Look at him, she whispered to her audience. Trying to stay cool while getting called out. Bet he's thinking of every excuse right now. He's too quiet. Guilty conscience. Uppity driver getting humbled. Security guard's a hero. Marcus's phone showed 9:54 a.m. 6 minutes. 2 junior employees from the accounting department had joined the crowd, drawn by the commotion. Sarah Chen and Mike Rodriguez, both recent hires Marcus had interviewed personally 3 months ago. They didn't recognize him from this distance. Is that the Uber driver who's been causing problems? Sarah asked, filming with her phone. Must be, Mike replied. Security doesn't mess around with people who belong here. The guard's radio crackled again. Johnson, what's your 20? Backup is 2 minutes out. Executive parking, level B2. Got a trespasser who won't comply. Marcus noticed something interesting. The intern's live stream had been picked up by others. The hashtag #EntitledDriver was starting to trend. Someone had shared the video to the company's internal Slack channel. Employees were gathering at windows on the lower floors, pointing down at the garage. His phone buzzed again. This time Robert Kim, the chairman of the board. "Marcus, the Patterson lawyers are here. They're asking for you specifically." 9:55 a.m. "Sir," Marcus tried once more, "I have a meeting." "You have nothing." The guard stepped closer. "Except about 30 seconds before my backup arrives and we sort this out properly." The intern's viewer count had exploded to 2,847. The video was being shared across multiple social platforms simultaneously. Marcus watched the comments scroll by, each one a small judgment rendered by strangers who saw only what they expected to see. This is what happens when people get too comfortable. Driver probably argues with every parking attendant. Finally, someone standing up to these entitled rideshare guys. Marcus's briefcase lay open on the concrete. Among the scattered papers, his quarterly revenue reports were visible to anyone paying attention. The header read, "Strategic Operations Division, Q4 Analysis by M. Williams, Vice President." But no one was paying attention to the details. They saw what they wanted to see. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the garage. 2 additional security guards rounded the corner, moving with purpose. The crowd of onlookers had grown to nearly 20 people, all recording, all sharing, all contributing to a story they didn't understand. Marcus looked at his phone one final time. 9:56 a.m. 4 minutes to change everything. The backup security guards arrived like reinforcements to a battlefield. Officer Martinez and Officer Thompson flanked Johnson, creating a wall of authority between Marcus and the building entrance. Their radios buzzed with chatter from building management. "Situation report?" Martinez asked, scanning the crowd of phone-wielding employees. "Trespasser refuses to move his vehicle," Johnson replied. "Been arguing for 10 minutes. Claims he belongs here." The intern's live stream had exploded to over 5,000 viewers. Her whispered commentary provided real-time narration. 3 security guards now. This guy really messed up. Building management is getting involved. The comments flooded her screen faster than she could read them. "Call the police already. Bet he doesn't even have insurance. These entitled drivers are getting out of control." Marcus checked his phone. 9:57 a.m. 3 minutes until the board meeting. His calendar showed 12 department heads waiting for his quarterly analysis. The Patterson merger documents worth $2.3 billion to the company sat, scattered on the garage floor. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step away from the vehicle." Martinez's voice carried the weight of procedure. "Building management wants to speak with you." As if summoned by his words, David Hassan emerged from the elevator bank. As facilities manager, Hassan controlled access to the executive floors. His quick stride and furrowed brow suggested someone had called him directly about the situation. "What's the problem here?" Hassan's eyes immediately locked onto Marcus, taking in the coffee stains, the scattered papers, the modest Honda Civic in premium parking. "Found this individual in executive parking," Johnson explained. "He's refusing to move his vehicle and claims he has authorization." Hassan's expression hardened. Marcus had seen that look before, the instant calculation that happens when someone makes assumptions based on appearance rather than facts. "Sir, this is a private corporate facility." Hassan's tone was crisp, professional, dismissive. "Executive parking is reserved for senior management only. I'm going to need to see your employment authorization." Marcus reached for his scattered papers, pulling out his building access card. The gold stripe caught the fluorescent light as he extended it toward Hassan. Hassan barely glanced at it. "Sir, I don't know how you obtained this card, but impersonating a corporate employee is a serious offense. I'm going to have to ask you to surrender it immediately." The crowd pressed closer. The intern had moved to get a better angle, her viewer count now exceeding 8,000. Someone had shared the stream to TikTok, where it was gaining momentum under #ParkingLotJustice. "This is insane," Sarah Chen whispered to Mike Rodriguez. "How did he even get past the gate?" "Probably tailgated someone," Mike replied, still filming. "Happens all the time." Marcus's phone vibrated insistently. Text messages were piling up. Elena, CFO. "Board is asking for you. Patterson lawyers getting restless." Robert Kim, Chairman. "Where are you? This is unlike you." Legal Department. "Need merger docs ASAP. Deadline is 10:30. 9:58 a.m. "I'm going to need you to come with us," Hassan continued. "We'll sort this out upstairs with security management, and we'll need to discuss how you obtained that access card." The three security guards formed a loose triangle around Marcus. Not quite an arrest, but unmistakably a detention. The crowd sensed the escalation phones lifted higher, Zoom functions engaged. "Wait, are they arresting him?" someone called out. "About time," another voice responded. The intern's commentary grew excited. "This is crazy, guys. They're actually taking him into custody. This driver really thought he could just park wherever he wanted." Finally, some consequences. Hope they press charges. Entitled much? Marcus remained perfectly still, his hands visible, his posture non-threatening. 45 years of experience had taught him that in moments like these, dignity mattered more than pride. "Sir, please place your hands behind your back," Martinez instructed. "That won't be necessary," Marcus said quietly. Hassan stepped forward. "Sir, you're disrupting our workplace. We have employees trying to get to work, and you're creating a scene. If you don't comply, we'll have to call Metro Police." The threat of police involvement sent a ripple through the crowd. Phones angled for better shots. The intern's stream had been picked up by local news aggregators monitoring social media for breaking stories. Marcus felt his phone buzz again. This time, a call. The screen showed Robert Kim, Chairman. He let it go to voicemail. 9:59 a.m., 1 minute until the board meeting. 12 department heads waiting. Patterson lawyers reviewing a merger that could define the company's next decade. And Marcus Williams stood in a corporate parking garage, surrounded by security guards who didn't know they were detaining one of the most powerful people in the building. "Last chance," Hassan said. "Surrender the access card and come with us peacefully, or we involve law enforcement." The crowd had grown to nearly 30 people. Word was spreading through the building's internal communication channels. "Entitled driver" was trending on 3 platforms. The intern's original stream had been shared over 500 times in the past 8 minutes. Marcus looked around at the faces, some curious, some entertained, some genuinely angry on behalf of the security guards doing their job. None of them had looked at his parking permit. None had examined his access card closely. None had asked the simple question, what if we're wrong? His phone screen showed 10 o'clock a.m. exactly. The board meeting had officially started without him. Marcus reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. Not the one that had been buzzing with messages, a different phone. This one was sleek, expensive, with a case that bore the corporate logo. He pressed a single contact. The call connected on the first ring. "This is Marcus Williams," he said quietly, his voice carrying despite the crowd noise. "Code red, executive parking garage, level B2. I need you here now." The live stream picked up his words clearly. Comments exploded across the intern's screen. "Code red? What's that? Who's he calling?" "Sounds official." Hassan frowned. "Sir, who are you calling?" Marcus didn't answer. He simply waited, phone still pressed to his ear, as the seconds ticked by in absolute silence. Then they heard it, the sharp ping of elevator doors opening across the garage. Fast footsteps echoed off concrete walls, moving with unmistakable urgency. The crowd turned toward the sound, phones swiveling to capture whatever was coming next. The footsteps belonged to Captain Patricia Reynolds, head of corporate security. She moved across the garage with military precision, her expression shifting from concern to barely contained fury as she took in the scene. Behind her followed 3 additional security supervisors, their faces equally grim. "Mr. Williams." Her voice cut through the murmur of the crowd like a blade. "Sir, I am profoundly sorry. What happened here?" The change was instantaneous. Johnson, Martinez, and Thompson straightened to attention. Hassan's confident posture crumbled. The intern's live stream viewer count had hit 15,000, and the comments section exploded into chaos. "Wait, Mr. Williams? Who is this guy? Security captain is bowing to him. Oh, snap." Marcus remained perfectly calm, his voice steady but carrying an edge that hadn't been there before. "Captain Reynolds, your team seems to believe I'm trespassing in my own parking space." "Your own?" Hassan's voice cracked. His eyes darted to Marcus's access card, then to the parking permit on the Honda's dashboard, seeing details he'd ignored moments before. Captain Reynolds followed his gaze. The parking permit was crystal clear. "Executive level, M. Williams, VP Strategic Operations, $500 month, valid through DEC 2024. "Jesus Christ," Hassan whispered. The crowd had gone dead silent except for the soft tapping of fingers on phone screens. The intern's hands were shaking as she held her device, her whispered commentary barely audible. "Guys, I think we just watched them harass an actual executive." Marcus gestured to his scattered papers. "Captain, perhaps you could help me collect my board meeting materials? I'm already 15 minutes late." "Of course, sir, immediately." Reynolds barked orders to her team. "Secure Mr. Williams's documents now." Johnson, who had started this entire confrontation, stood frozen. The reality of what he'd done was sinking in like cold water. He'd physically assaulted a vice president, on camera, with thousands of witnesses. Marcus's phone, his regular phone, buzzed with a call. The screen clearly showed Elena Vasquez, CFO. He answered it calmly. "Elena, I apologize for the delay. I encountered a situation in the parking garage that required attention." Even on speaker, the CFO's voice carried urgency. "Marcus, thank God. The Patterson lawyers are asking specifically for your analysis. Robert's been covering, but they want to hear from you directly about the integration timeline." "I'll be there in 5 minutes," Marcus replied. "Please tell the board I'm bringing additional materials for our discussion on workplace culture initiatives." The intern's stream had been picked up by major social media aggregators. #Executive Parking Gate was now trending nationally. The original #entitled-driver hashtag had morphed into #security-fail and #corporate racism. Hassan stepped forward, his face pale. "Mr. Williams, there's been a terrible mistake. I didn't realize—" "You didn't realize what, exactly?" Marcus's voice remained level, but something in his tone made Hassan take a step back. "You didn't realize you should look at someone's identification before assuming they don't belong? Or you didn't realize that making assumptions based on appearance might lead to this exact situation?" The gathered employees were frantically Googling on their phones. Sarah Chen's face went white as she found Marcus's biography on the company website. Mike Rodriguez actually sat down on a concrete barrier, staring at his phone screen in horror. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered. "We were filming him. We were laughing." The intern's comments section had become a battlefield. "This is why we need bias training. Company's gonna get sued. Those security guards are so fired. Plot twist of the century." Captain Reynolds had efficiently collected Marcus's papers, organizing them with practiced efficiency. She handed him the briefcase, her expression professionally neutral but her eyes conveying deep concern about what would happen next. "Sir, regarding the conduct of my team—" "We'll discuss that later, Captain." Marcus checked his Rolex 10:17 a.m. "Right now, I have a board meeting to attend." He walked toward the elevator bank, his steps measured and deliberate. The crowd parted automatically, phones still recording, but the mood completely transformed. What had started as entertainment had become a corporate crisis unfolding in real time. The elevator doors opened as he approached, his executive access card automatically calling the car. The digital display inside clearly showed floors 40-45 as executive level, authorized personnel only. Before stepping inside, Marcus turned back to address the crowd. His voice carried clearly across the garage, and every phone captured his words. To those of you who have been recording this interaction, I want you to understand something important. What happened here today wasn't about parking spaces or building access. It was about assumptions. The intern's viewer count had hit 25,000. Local news stations were already reaching out to the company's PR department. You saw what you expected to see, Marcus continued. A black man in a modest car must be a driver. A black man in an expensive parking space must be trespassing. A black man with an executive access card must have stolen it. Johnson's radio crackled. Dispatch was calling for a status update, unaware that the trespasser was now delivering an impromptu speech about racial bias to a live audience of thousands. But here's what you didn't see, Marcus said, pulling out his second phone, the one he'd used to call Captain Reynolds. The screensaver showed a photo of the corporate board of directors. Marcus's face was prominently featured in the center. You didn't see that I've worked for this company for 8 years. You didn't see that I'm responsible for $847 million in annual strategic initiatives. You didn't see that the meeting I'm late for involves a merger I've been negotiating for 6 months. Hassan looked like he might be sick. And you didn't see that sometimes the person you're absolutely certain doesn't belong somewhere is actually the person who owns 23% of the company stock. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the intern had stopped her commentary. Marcus stepped into the elevator. Captain Reynolds, I'll expect a full incident report within 2 hours. Include the social media footage as evidence. And Captain? Yes, sir? Make sure HR understands this isn't just about individual conduct. This is about systemic failures in how we train our staff to recognize and address their own biases. The elevator doors began to close, but Marcus held them open for one final statement. To everyone who shared this video, asked yourself this. How many times have you made the same assumptions? How many Marcus Williamses have you dismissed without a second thought? The doors closed with a soft chime. The garage erupted in chaos. Phones were frantically deleting videos, while others uploaded them even faster. The intern's stream had reached 40,000 viewers and was being picked up by news outlets across the country. Hassan pulled out his own phone and dialed corporate communications. This is David Hassan. We have a situation that's about to go viral. I need damage control immediately. But it was already too late. The story was spreading faster than any corporate response could contain it. Executive Parking Gate was trending on Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn simultaneously. Johnson sat down heavily on a concrete barrier, his head in his hands. 8 years of security work ended by 30 seconds of assumptions, and 45 floors above them, Marcus Williams walked into the boardroom where 12 department heads and 6 Patterson lawyers waited to hear his analysis of the most important merger in company history. Gentlemen, ladies, he said, setting his briefcase on the polished conference table. I apologize for the delay. I encountered an educational opportunity that I believe will benefit our entire organization. The boardroom fell silent as Marcus took his seat at the polished mahogany table. 12 department heads, 6 Patterson lawyers, and the entire executive committee watched as he calmly opened his briefcase and withdrew the scattered documents that had been kicked across a parking garage floor 20 minutes earlier. Robert Kim, chairman of the board, leaned forward. Marcus, we were concerned when you didn't arrive on time. That's unlike you. I was detained in our own parking garage, Marcus replied, his voice carrying a measured weight that made several executives shift uncomfortably. By our own security team, who believed I was trespassing. Elena Vasquez, the CFO, frowned. What do you mean, detained? Marcus pulled out his phone and opened the live stream that was still running. The intern had moved closer to the elevator bank and was providing commentary to 47,000 viewers about what had just transpired. Currently, this video has been viewed 312,000 times across multiple platforms. Hashtag executive parking gate is trending nationally. Our stock price has dropped 1.7% in the past 25 minutes. He placed the phone on the conference table, screen visible to everyone. The Patterson lawyers exchanged glances. They'd come to discuss a $2.3 billion merger, not a corporate crisis. The incident was captured on multiple devices, Marcus continued, by employees who laughed while watching security physically assault me based on the assumption that a black man in executive parking must be a trespasser. James Patterson, the lead attorney, spoke carefully. Mr. Williams, this is obviously concerning, but we have a significant transaction to discuss. Mr. Patterson, with respect, this incident directly impacts the transaction. Marcus opened his laptop and projected financial data onto the room's main screen. Let me show you some numbers. The display filled with precise data. Discrimination liability analysis. Average settlement for executive-level workplace discrimination, 1.2 M. Social media amplification multiplier, 3.4x. Estimated legal exposure with viral video evidence, 4.1 M. Current trend. Velocity, 15,000 shares per hour. Projected 24-hour reach, 2.3 million views. These aren't hypothetical numbers, Marcus explained. Last month, Hendricks Corporation settled a similar case for $3.8 million after a viral incident involving their minority VP. The week before that, Morrison Industries lost $12 million in market cap when a discrimination video reached trending status. Sarah Mitchell, head of HR, looked stricken. Marcus, I had no idea this happened. We need systematic change, Marcus interrupted. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was the predictable result of inadequate bias training and ineffective accountability measures. He clicked to the next slide. Company bias incident data. Last 24 months. Formal discrimination complaints, 23. Informal bias reports, 67. Security-related incidents involving minority employees, 11 workplace bias training completion rate, 34%. Supervisor bias training completion, 19%. The room was dead quiet except for the soft hum of the ventilation system. Our diversity and inclusion budget for 2024 was $2.8 million, Marcus continued. We spent those funds on consulting reports and mandatory training sessions that 66% of our workforce has never attended. Meanwhile, we've created a workplace culture where our own security team physically assaults executives based on racial assumptions. Robert Kim's voice was carefully controlled. What are you proposing? Marcus stood and walked to the wall-mounted display, his presence commanding the room's attention. The Patterson lawyers were taking notes. They'd witnessed corporate crises before, but rarely with this level of real-time data analysis. I'm proposing we use this incident as a catalyst for meaningful change rather than damage control. He clicked to a new slide. Immediate action items. Terminate security personnel involved, effective immediately. Suspend facilities manager pending full investigation. Implement mandatory bias, training with 100% completion requirement. Install bias reporting system with direct executive oversight. Quarterly bias audits with public transparency reports. The terminations send a clear message about accountability, Marcus explained. The training requirement addresses systemic gaps. The reporting system prevents future incidents. And the transparency reports demonstrate ongoing commitment to our stated diversity values. Elena leaned forward. What about the viral video? Communications wants to issue a standard apology statement. No. Marcus's response was firm. Standard apologies suggest this was an aberration. This was a pattern finally captured on camera. We acknowledge the pattern, take responsibility for enabling it, and demonstrate concrete steps to eliminate it. He clicked to financial projections. Cost-benefit analysis. Immediate implementation costs, $847,000. Ongoing annual compliance costs, 1.2 M. Estimated lawsuit prevention value, 8.5 M annually. Brand reputation, protection value, 23 M. Market cap preservation. Employee retention improvement, 2.1 M in reduced turnover costs. James Patterson studied the numbers. These figures suggest the intervention pays for itself within 18 months. Exactly. This isn't corporate charity, it's business necessity. Marcus returned to his seat. Companies that proactively address bias issues see 23% better employee retention, 19% higher innovation metrics, and 15% improved customer satisfaction scores. The live stream on Marcus's phone showed that viewer count had climbed to 73,000. Comments were flowing faster than anyone could read them, but the tone had shifted from entertainment to serious discussion about workplace discrimination. Robert Kim made the decision every corporate leader dreads but respects. Marcus, what do you need from us? Authority to implement these changes immediately, full board support for the financial commitment, and agreement that we're not just fixing a PR problem, we're fixing a business problem that's been hiding in plain sight. Marcus pulled up one final slide. Board resolution required. Authorize 2.1 M emergency budget for bias intervention program. Mandate. 100%. Executive participation in expanded training. Establish quarterly bias metrics as board-level KPIs. Create executive-level. Chief Diversity Officer position. Implement zero-tolerance policy with automatic termination protocols. I'm requesting a vote on these measures before we continue with the Patterson merger discussion, Marcus said. Because if we can't create an inclusive workplace for our own executives, we have no business expanding our operations. The Patterson lawyers whispered among themselves. This wasn't typical merger preparation, but they'd witnessed something unprecedented, a corporation addressing discrimination proactively rather than reactively. Elena spoke first. I second the motion for immediate implementation. Sarah Mitchell nodded. HR fully supports these measures. One by one, each department head voiced their agreement. The Patterson lawyers watched as a company made real-time decisions to address systemic bias, something they'd never seen in 20 years of corporate law. Robert Kim called for the formal vote. All in favor of implementing Mr. Williams's bias intervention program with full budget authorization? 12 hands rose simultaneously. Motion carries unanimously. Robert turned to the Patterson team. Gentlemen, you're witnessing how we handle challenges in this organization. I hope this demonstrates the kind of leadership culture you'll be partnering with. James Patterson smiled, the first genuine expression he'd shown all morning. Mr. Williams, in 30 years of corporate law, I've never seen a discrimination incident transformed into competitive advantage in real time. We're more interested in this merger now than when we walked in. Marcus's phone showed the live stream had reached 89,000 viewers. But now, instead of watching workplace discrimination, they were witnessing unprecedented corporate accountability. The numbers told the real story. By 2:00 p.m., the company's stock had recovered and was up 3.2% as investors responded positively to proactive leadership. By 3:30 p.m., the changes were already in motion. Security Officer Johnson had been terminated with cause, his 8-year employment record closed with a notation that would follow him to future background checks. Officers Martinez and Thompson faced mandatory retraining and 30-day probation. Facilities Manager Hassan was suspended pending a full investigation into departmental bias protocols. The company's legal team worked with lightning speed. Within 2 hours of the board vote, a comprehensive public statement appeared on all corporate channels. Not the typical non-apology most companies issued, but a detailed acknowledgement of systemic failure and concrete remediation steps. Marcus sat in his office, watching the social media metrics on his second monitor. The viral video had reached 1.2 million views across platforms, but something unprecedented was happening. Instead of the usual corporate pile-on, comments were shifting toward praise for the company's immediate response. Never seen a company actually do something this fast. This is how you handle bias, with data and action. Real leadership looks like this. Captain Reynolds knocked and entered with her incident report. Sir, the full investigation is complete. We've identified 17 similar complaints involving minority employees over the past 18 months. None were properly escalated. 17. Marcus reviewed the documentation. Each incident followed the same pattern: assumptions, escalation, and inadequate follow-up. What's our implementation timeline for the new bias reporting system? It has a working prototype ready for testing tomorrow. Anonymous reporting, direct executive notification, mandatory response within 48 hours. The app includes photo and video upload capabilities for evidence documentation. The intern who had live-streamed the original incident, Amanda Rodriguez, from the marketing department, had been invited to help design the reporting interface. Her viral video had accidentally become the catalyst for the most comprehensive bias prevention system in corporate America. Marcus's phone rang. Elena Vasquez with an update. Stock price is up 4.1% since the announcement. Institutional investors are calling this proactive risk management. 3 other Fortune 500 companies have reached out asking about licensing our bias prevention protocols. The Patterson merger had proceeded smoothly after the morning's drama. The lawyers were impressed enough by the company's crisis management that they'd agreed to terms 12% more favorable than originally projected. Apparently, demonstrating real-time problem-solving abilities increased negotiating leverage. Sarah Mitchell from HR appeared in the doorway with a tablet full of data. Marcus, we've had 847 employees voluntarily sign up for expanded bias training in the past 3 hours. That's more participation than we've seen in 2 years of mandatory programs. The most surprising development came from an unexpected source. Johnson, the fired security guard, had posted a video apology on his personal social media accounts. His statement was raw, unpolished, and genuine, acknowledging that his assumptions had been wrong and expressing gratitude that the incident had forced him to confront his own biases. The video had 340,000 views and was being shared as an example of how people could learn from their mistakes rather than just being canceled for them. Marcus's calendar showed back-to-back meetings for the rest of the week: diversity consultant interviews, bias training curriculum reviews, and sessions with department heads to implement the new protocols. The work of systemic change was just beginning. At 5:00 p.m., he walked back down to the executive parking garage. His Honda Civic sat exactly where he'd left it, but everything else had changed. New signs were already being installed. Reserved parking, please present valid authorization, instead of the previous generic, executive parking only. Captain Reynolds was conducting training with the evening security shift, using the morning's incident as a case study. Marcus listened from a distance as she explained the importance of examining evidence before making assumptions. The lesson isn't about being nice to everyone, she told her team. It's about being professional with everyone. Check credentials, follow protocols, ask questions instead of making statements. The intern Amanda approached Marcus near his car. She looked nervous but determined. Mr. Williams, I wanted to apologize. I thought I was just recording drama for my followers. I didn't realize I was documenting discrimination. Amanda, you did exactly what we needed someone to do. You provided evidence of a problem we couldn't ignore anymore. That's not something to apologize for, it's something to be proud of. She smiled, relieved. HR asked me to help design the bias reporting app. I never thought my social media skills would be useful for corporate diversity work. Marcus checked his phone one final time. The viral video had stabilized at 1.4 million views, but more importantly, the company's response video had reached 800,000 views with overwhelmingly positive engagement. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. But today had proven something important. Viral moments of bias could become viral moments of change if leadership was willing to act with courage rather than defensiveness. 6 months later, the parking garage incident had become a Harvard Business School case study titled Viral Accountability: How Real-Time Crisis Management Creates Competitive Advantage. Marcus Williams had been promoted to Chief Executive Officer, with his first initiative being the expansion of bias prevention protocols to all company subsidiaries. The intern, Amanda Rodriguez, now led the corporate digital accountability team, a department that didn't exist before her live stream changed everything. Her bias reporting app had been licensed to 47 companies and had prevented an estimated 200-plus discrimination incidents through early intervention. Johnson, the former security guard, had found work with a diversity consulting firm. His apology video had evolved into a speaking engagement career where he helped other organizations understand unconscious bias from the perspective of someone who'd lived it. His presentations always ended with the same message. The question isn't whether you have biases, it's whether you're brave enough to recognize them. The company's stock had outperformed market indexes by 23% over 6 months, driven partly by industry-leading diversity metrics that attracted top talent and ethical investors. The Patterson merger had generated $127 million in additional revenue, with Marcus's leadership during the crisis cited as a key factor in favorable contract terms. More importantly, the workplace culture had transformed measurably. Employee satisfaction surveys showed a 34% increase in feeling safe to report bias. Minority employee retention improved by 41%. Innovation metrics rose 28% as diverse teams felt empowered to contribute ideas without fear of dismissal. The viral video still circulated, but now it was shared as inspiration rather than entertainment. Comments had evolved from mockery to motivation. This is what real leadership looks like. Proof that one moment can change everything. Every company needs a Marcus Williams. Marcus kept a framed photo from that morning on his executive desk. Not the humiliating moment when coffee splashed across his suit, but the image of him calmly collecting his papers while surrounded by assumptions. It reminded him that dignity maintained under pressure creates more lasting change than anger ever could. The Honda Civic still sat in the same parking space. Marcus could afford any car he wanted, but keeping the modest vehicle had become symbolic. Every morning, employees saw their CEO choosing substance over symbols, accessibility over intimidation. These life stories matter because they remind us that real-life stories of discrimination don't have to end in defeat. Black stories, touching stories, stories of quiet power overcoming loud prejudice. They shape the world when we're brave enough to share them. Your voice matters in this conversation. Have you witnessed workplace bias? Share your story in the comments below. How would you have handled Marcus's situation? What systemic changes would you implement in your workplace? If this story resonates with your values, hit subscribe. We're building a community that believes dignity isn't negotiable and respect isn't earned through titles alone. Share this video with someone who needs to understand that assumptions have consequences and that real power comes from lifting others up, not tearing them down. Together, we can transform workplaces from spaces of judgment into places of opportunity. What change will you create today?